Welcome to Financial Issues, where we help you steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
This is Financial Issues, where we help you defund darkness and fund the light by investing with biblical integrity. Welcome, everyone, to the show. Great to be here with you. Seth Udinsky, Sam Case, your host, Mark Manila. The whole gang's here on this St. Patrick's Day Tuesday. Mark, good morning to you, brother.
Good morning. Good to be with you all, and good to be with you, Seth and Sam.
Top of the morning to you.
I was waiting. Thank you, Sam. I was waiting for it. Thank you. Sam is the most Irish-looking.
I think I am. I'm about a third Irish. So does that beat you too?
That's awesome. I believe it does.
All right.
I don't think I have an ounce of Irish in me.
That's awesome. Guys, one of my favorite heroes of church history, by the way, Patrick, was amazing. The Lord used him to pretty much bring to salvation an entire island. So pretty cool stuff. He was an amazing guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. What's also amazing, Mark, is getting to talk to our listeners on this show. And we do that every day by you all calling into the show. And we'd love to hear from you right now. Phone lines are wide open. 610-363-1110 if you want to wish us a happy St. Patrick's Day and ask a financial question. We'd love to hear from you. Craig Haugaard's going to join us in just a little bit to discuss a truly delightful topic, which is bird flu. One of our favorite topics to discuss, it seems. So we'll have some fun with that. But first and foremost, guys, I will bet. I'm not a betting man, by the way, but if I was, I would probably want to repent of that. But let's just pretend. If I was a betting man, I would bet the mainstream media is not telling you this story that we're going to tell you here. We're glad to share it with you. If this proposal gets the legs under it, guys, my goodness, I'll save my opinions for later because Mark, I want to hear yours first. But Sam, give us the details first and foremost. What's going on here? I'm so excited about this.
Mark's like, I hate this idea. No. So the idea here is
not Social Security, by the way.
No, this is something completely different. But it is tax related. Republicans proposing cutting capital gain taxes on home sales. In a recent letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, at least 8 Republican lawmakers asked Bessent to use executive authority to index capital gains to inflation, with the idea that reducing these taxable gains for long-term home buyers could encourage more people to sell their homes, especially wealthier homes, and free up that inventory. The letter said, quote, families who purchase a home or small real estate investment often hold that asset for many years or decades. Over long holding periods, a substantial share of the nominal gain may reflect inflation rather than true increases in real value, saying that taxing these phantom gains, as they call them, discourages housing mobility, locks up housing supply, penalizes long-term homeowners, and distorts real estate investment decisions. So what do you think about this, Mark? Do you think this is a good idea, and do you think it will actually help to free up home inventory?
Let's see. Lowering taxes, is it a good idea? How long does someone have to think about that before they say,
rise
yes,
this morning?
It's a great idea. Anything that lowers taxes is a good idea. Taxes are a disincentive to everybody to work hard, to do the best they can. It penalizes people for being productive. This tax is even worse. The capital gains tax on things like housing. I understand a little bit of it in the stock market. I can understand a little bit of it in business, but this is ridiculous. You know what they're really taxing? First of all, we have the Federal Reserve, who increases the money supply, so inflation goes up. As inflation goes up, everything inflates in price because there's more dollars chasing the same products or the same number of houses in this thing. That causes the price of that house to go up. You sell that house, now you have to pay taxes on the increase of that house, not because it really increased in value or it's more valuable, but because of the inflation that was imposed upon you by the central bank. So effectively what the central bank did was create another way for the government to draw more money out of your pocket. It just isn't right.
That's their job, though, isn't it, Mark?
The central bank's job is there to exist for themselves. That's why there's so many people who are waking up, becoming conscious of what the central banks really are. They have no allegiance to countries. They have no allegiance. They're just a world central bank, one world order. Let's get all the money we can under our management and control the politics and control how everything goes. Yeah, it sounds like conspiracy theory to me too, but sometimes conspiracy theory is reality, and this one is. So we have to watch them. I think this is a great idea. I do not like the way they're trying to implement it, though. Congress, start doing your job. Pass bills. Start making laws that make it better for us. Stop relying on a few people to take executive orders that only last for moments until the next president or the next secretary is brought in. This is craziness. Congress, get off your butts and get to work. Thank you.
Amen. So, Mark, I love that rant, by the way. That was my follow-up question is, what would it take for something like this to become a reality? Because as I'm understanding it, Sam, right now it's just a proposal.
Well, right now they're asking Scott Bessent to wave his magic wand and do something about it. But, then the next president can just undo that. So it would have some immediate effect, but as far as long-term change, that wouldn't actually happen. Yeah. It'd be completely dependent on what the administration is, Democrat or Republican.
Now, yesterday I did an interview with a Truth and Liberty, I think. Truth and Liberty. We did they interviewed me for 45 minutes. And one of the things that was brought up that I thought was very true is that I do blame Congress for a lot. But quite frankly, he brought it to my attention, and rightfully so. Well, is it really Congress's fault, or is it the people electing the people to the House of Representatives and to the Senate?
Yeah, and we don't like to hear that, Mark, but at the end of the day, we do have to look at ourselves and say, what are we
luckily
doing?
I can blame it on him instead of me. I'm not lecturing you. It was him. No. The reality is, absolutely, it is our response. It's our civic duty is what they used to say. But as a Christian, as a believer, we are to steward everything God has entrusted to us. He has entrusted this country to us. Are we voting properly, or are we just voting because our fathers and our grandfathers and our great-grandparents all voted this way? Are we voting, Republican or Democrat because they did it, or independent? Well, how about we vote for the right people? We get behind the right people, those who are fiscally conservative, those who believe in doing the right thing for all people, not just some people, those who aren't trying to use racism or trying to use other actions or terms like that just to manipulate people and then do nothing about it. I think it's time that we really, and this year is really big, people. This year is really big. We are close to that. You've heard me say it. We're coming down the rapids right towards the waterfall of our deficit and our debt being too big to reverse without major catastrophe. So if we don't get it this year, if we don't get a Congress in there who's going to do their job, it may be too late. So wake up. Become conscious, start backing people who really are going to do the right things, who aren't just going to talk the talk, but you have research and you've gotten to know good enough that we can get them in the Senate, get them in the House, and get a majority there big enough that we can start passing the bills and not have to rely on the president and executive orders. I know that's not where this was supposed to go, so I apologize for that.
You expect Congress to pass laws? Do you expect the legislature to legislate?
Yeah,
that's crazy,
Mark. So silly.
It's silly. But Mark, it does bring it full circle. We are at our core, we're all about good stewardship. And of course, often it's financial stewardship, but we need not forget civic stewardship as well. And perhaps it starts there too. That for those of us, especially for those of us who you might think, okay, I don't have a lot. I can't really invest all that much, or maybe I'm not even interested in it. Well, okay, that's fine. You can do whatever you want to, but boy, you better be interested in the well-being of your country. Because God has given you a country to steward, not just for you, but for your future generations also.
Your children and your children's children.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said, brother. Well, folks, listen, if you want to chime in, we'd love to hear from you. 610-363-1110. Give us your thoughts. Would you love the idea of no capital gains on home sales? I certainly would. Perhaps the way that we get there, Mark, might take a little bit of legwork here. I know Robert's in the call queue, Mark, right now. Robert, if you could just hold on, brother. We're going to get Craig Haugaard on here soon, but we will get to your question. It's a great one. I so appreciate you joining us. I know you put that question into the chat, so we will get to that, brother. Just hang on. But while we're waiting for that, Mark and Sam, let me just tell you guys that the markets yesterday roared back with some strength. They opened a new week well. They're looking for their first winning week in almost a month. It feels like it's been a long time. By Monday's closing bell, the Dow Jones finished up almost a full percent. S&P was up right at a full percent. The NASDAQ up a full 1.25%. The Russell 2000 also up right around a percentage point. The pre-markets this morning were looking pretty strong as well. At least that's what it looked like earlier. Still rising slightly as the market is looking to try to rebound here. So, Mark, we'll see what happens in this coming week here. But I'll be looking forward to your commentary, Mark, as it'll come out soon.
Yeah, the markets are being very resilient, which is very positive. So the hope in America is still here. I don't mean to bring people down with that. But maybe you got a different opinion. 610-363. You might want to call in here. I'm sorry, 363.
Go for it, Mark. Yeah, you got it. 363-1110. 610-363-1110. There it is,
I looked
Mark
up at my X screen and saw 1106, and it confused me.
Everyone keeps talking.
Here at Financial Issues, we believe in being faithful stewards of everything God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. The most meaningful way we can do that is by sharing the hope of salvation with young people, giving them a foundation of truth that can shape the rest of their lives. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel directly to elementary school children in public schools across the country. Week after week, volunteers have the opportunity to build consistent, Christ-centered relationships with kids during some of their most formative years. These aren't just programs, they're life-changing encounters that point children to Jesus and surround them with encouragement, mentorship, and biblical truth. Together, we can make a lasting difference for the kingdom. We can help reach children who may never otherwise hear the good news. If you feel called to be part of sharing the gospel with kids in public schools, visit reachourschools.com. Again, that's reachourschools.com.
I started investing close to 30 years ago now. All that time, I had never heard anyone talk about setting up your portfolio in a way that glorifies God. When I first heard about it, I was listening to the radio, a show called Financial Issues. They were teaching people how to honor God with their money. I became a partner with Financial Issues, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. Invest your money in a God-honoring way. Go to financialissues.org.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Hey, folks, I do hope you'll visit our Trump Accounts petition page, TrumpAccountsForAll.com. We're making great strides here, but we have a long way to go. So sign that petition if you haven't done so and pass it along. TrumpAccountsForAll.com. We see a lot of you in the queue there. We'll get to you guys, but Mark, we do have a special guest here. Actually, before we get to that special guest, Sam, why don't you give us the details here of what exactly is going on with our favorite topic, the bird flu?
Birdmageddon, right?
Right.
Birdmageddon. I like that.
Well, it's quite the roller coaster. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they're reporting that egg prices fell 3.8% for the month of February and are down 42.1% from a year ago. So that's pretty dang good. An economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation told Fox Business the U.S. egg industry has been on, quote, a roller coaster of avian influenza detection since 2022. That is is factoring in all those price fluctuations we're seeing with eggs. And sadly, we're not off the roller coaster just yet. The USDA's wildlife monitoring has found a very high viral load in wild migratory birds of the bird flu, with about 14 million birds being affected in the last 30 days alone.
Wow, that's a lot of birds. Well, and it's hard to make sense of all this. So, of course, we called in our captain of the guard here, Craig Haugaard, who's our agricultural and commodities expert, to help us work through all this. Craig, welcome to the show, my friend.
It is my pleasure to be here, guys.
Yeah, so tell us, what do we need to know about this latest news concerning the bird flu?
You know, we're seeing it tracks really with bird migration. So you see it heavily in the spring and again in the fall. And we are seeing a lot of cases pop up. I know in January there were 7.4 million birds in Pennsylvania that had to be put down because they detected bird flu in flocks. We currently have an outbreak going on in Indiana. I know of 15 commercial flocks so far that have been impacted. Have not heard numbers on how many birds are going to need to be destroyed as a result of that, but certainly is a huge upswing. We're still a long ways away from the peak. I think the worst year in history so far was back in 2022, where we ended up killing 52 million birds as a result of bird flu infestation or infection.
Well, so, Craig, in 2022, was that a reality, or was that because of executive orders and purposely killing off birds in fear and not in fact?
No, it was definitely a reality. We had seen another.
I just never knew that for certain. You know, it just seemed like it went right in with everything else Biden was doing wrong.
Right, and there seems to be years in which it's a stronger. The previous year, the old record was in 2015, where we lost 50.5 million birds as well. So also a Democratic year, I would point out. Obama one year and Biden the next. So I don't know if there's a correlation there that bird flu surges when Democrats are in power. But
what's the big fear about the bird flu, though? I don't understand. It's the bird flu. It's not people flu. It's bird flu. What are they worried about with bird flu? Help us understand that.
There's a concern that the virus can mutate and impact humans. Now, there have been, in the last couple of years, 75 humans that have come down with the bird flu, and 2 of them have passed away as a result of the bird flu. So there hasn't been a huge cross-contamination yet, but that's obviously the big fear is that could mutate and impact human beings.
So where do we have to get to before it really impacts the price of eggs? Well, like you said, in Indiana, there's a bird flu, and you mentioned 2 places. Does that affect the total egg production and everything for the whole United States, or is that more local impact?
It's more of a localized situation at this point. Last year, we really have data for the amount of egg-laying birds in the United States was 2024. And I think we've been pretty steady since then. That year we had 311 million hens in commercial egg-laying operations. So if you look at what happened in 2022 and assume there was roughly 300 million birds and you lost 52 million of them, that's what, about 1/6 of all the egg-producing birds in the nation, which gets to be a really significant number, obviously, where we're sitting at 12 to 14 million at this point. Maybe has a little bit of an impact. I would disagree with the lead-in story a little bit. There's a weekly update that comes out from the USDA showing egg prices nationwide. We have seen a little bit of an uptick in egg prices this week over last week, and certainly this year over last year. There's a little stronger pricing, but I think we're a long ways away from blowing it up like we did in 2022.
Okay, let's make this personal. I know a lot of people, because of 2022, they have their own chickens. How does this affect people raising chickens, like 2 to 10 chickens on their own?
Well, probably the biggest impact is if those birds get the bird flu, and those birds are probably more likely to get the bird flu than birds in a commercial facility. Generally, the backyard chickens are much more exposed to the migratory birds coming through. The commercial operations are all going to be enclosed. We have incredible biosecurity that you go through. to get into those. The co-op that I'm currently working for has a feed division, and we deliver a lot of feed to poultry as well as swine and beef. But when you go into a poultry operation, before you drive into that yard, you have to disinfect the tires on your vehicle, disinfect your equipment before every stop. So, and if you were to go in and want to visit an egg laying facility, you would have to, well, the ones I've been in, you have to put on clothes that they have there for you, kind of almost a hazmat suit type of situation. You take a disinfectant to your footwear, or generally they'll just have their own shoes or boots there for you as well that stay at that facility, so it never goes. Even if a farmer has several facilities, quite frequently they'll just leave that set of clothing or shoes there and not even go from facility to facility with it. So they take it extremely seriously, and that's something that the backyard flocks don't do. And then, of course, the backyard flocks are more likely to be outdoors and exposed to migratory birds as well. So,
and by the time you see one dead on the ground, it's too late. They're all infected by that time. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's the case. I mean, that is the problem with the big commercial flocks, of course, is that you'll have, in some cases, millions of birds together. And if even one bird tests positive, you have to destroy the whole flock to try and keep it from spreading. So that's where you get into the big numbers. So the numbers are bigger when it gets into a commercial operation, but the backyards are much more likely to get much more exposed to it.
I see. Well, what about the eggs? I mean, we're destroying the chickens, but the eggs they lay, will they contain the flu? I mean, it seems like the chicken itself, the way they make eggs, they're coated with antivirus, stuff from the chicken, natural that God created. Do the eggs contain flu?
Not that I'm aware of. I've never seen anything that indicates that's the case. So I don't believe they are. That's a really good question, Mark. I don't believe that they do, but I need to follow up on that one.
No problem. Appreciate that.
But your point, the eggs are an amazing, absolutely an amazing thing. And what we're seeing now is that you can actually give that chicken an injection while it's still in the shell for different antibiotics and different things as well. So what's going on inside that shell is an absolute miracle. It takes about 21 days to hatch, and in a big egg-laying facility or a big commercial hatchery, about 80 to 90% of those chicks hatch. Of the eggs that were started out. Then you think about those eggs going into an egg-laying facility, right, a commercial egg-producing facility. Well, about 50% of the eggs that hatch are female and about 50% are male. And so now you need to figure out which of those little baby fluffy chicks is a male and which is a female. And that gets me there's a job that not many people think about, but chicken sexing is a real thing. I worked in a hatchery one summer, and we had people who would come in on hatch day, and they would sit there with trays of baby chicks and flip them over and look for the indicator, whether it's male or female, and the males were disposed of, and that was my job. Right out of high school is killing all the little baby males, but and then the females get put into starter pens and then ultimately moved into growing houses, and then when they're ready to start laying eggs, from the time they hatch to the time to start laying eggs is usually 4 to 6 months. At that point, you go into the barns that they're being raised in, and we always went in at night. It was cool and tried to reduce the stress on those birds, and would capture them and then take them to the facility that was where the egg production was taking place. So it's quite a lengthy process, and it's kind of interesting. But you look at a baby chick and have to try and figure out if it's male or female. It's a special skill set there, too.
Yeah, I would think so. How long does it take to go from, we had a bird flu epidemic to now we got the flocks back to where we need them to be?
Yeah, so once the bird flu is found in a flock, they have to go in and eliminate that. And they generally do that with suffocation. There's a foam that you can spray in the house that just suffocates everything to death pretty quickly. So then you have to remove all those and then go in and totally disinfect everything. You disinfect the floors, the walls, the equipment, anything that was, even related to that house has to be totally disinfected. And once it's disinfected, you have to have like a fallow period where that building sits empty. Generally 3 to 4 weeks, they'll let that thing set. And in some states actually require that you go in and conduct tests on the heels of that fallow period.
Sure.
Just to make sure that that threat has been totally eliminated. Do some environmental testing. And then once that has happened, then you go in and start restocking those barns. So assuming that there's enough eggs being hatched to have the chicks to ultimately put into those barns, you're probably looking at, a month and a half where that barn is going to be empty.
But so it's not the end of the world. And unfortunately, that's the way that the news has made it sound in the past. So if we eventually get there this year, which I hope we don't, I hope that the bird flu just goes away now, that we're far enough into it that we're not seeing it, but hopefully we won't have it. But even if we did, it's only like a month and a half before we start seeing the price come back down again. So, Craig, thank you so much for being with us today. You help us to just get rid of another one of the mainstream media's fear-mongering talks that might be around the corner here. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us.
That's the nice thing about chickens. They can reproduce very rapidly. In 21 days from fertilization to hatching an egg is a pretty quick turnaround compared to beef or something like that. Obviously.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening to this part of it, because now you know not to fear things. But as Christians, we don't fear them anyway. We know God's in control. The number here is 610-363-1110. Stephen, Robert, John, we see you on the phones. We're going to get to you when we come back here right away. Thank you for the call. We still have a slot open if you want to call in. 610-363-1110.
As a member of Samaritan Ministries, your
make a point. No matter what happens, I'll always be there for you.
I know.
folks. Happy to be here with you today. As Mark said at the end of that segment, we've got one line open, so fill it right now, 610-363-1110. Mark, let's get to these phones now. How about we go to Robert?
Yeah, but before we do, I saw George had a comment in the chat. Said only 20% of the people showed up for their primary in his area. That is so sad. That's what's going to cause this country to go over the cliff, over the waterfall. We need to get out. We need to be speaking up in love and in respect. Please get everybody possible to start voting. Get them on to iVoter.guide and all those different places so they can see the truth of what's out there. All right, got my 2 cents.
Mark, can I ask you a question? Robert, hang on for just a second. Mark, I need to ask you, as a seasoned brother who's wiser than I am, why is this? Why is George's County only 20% show up? Why do people
first
not
of all,
care
life
about
is hard.
Our country?
Life is hard.
Yeah.
You're in the midst of raising 3 children, is that right?
Yeah.
3 or 4?
Yep, 3.
Three children, and you know what that juggling's like. You have that going on. You have your job. How do you get involved in politics at the same time? How do you get involved in anything besides just trying to survive? Let's give a little slack there. But still, one day or 2 days a year or every 2 years, it's not that much. You can do it. You can do it, Seth. You can do it, America.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Robert.
Well said.
Robert, are you with us?
Yeah. Hi,
Robert.
Happy,
hi. Thank you for hanging on so long. I really appreciate that. God bless you.
Oh, no worries. And happy St. Patty's Day to everyone.
Why, thank you.
too, Robert.
What's on your mind this morning?
Well, I'll get to that in a second, but I just was noticing that Craig is sounding very healthy. So praise the Lord for
Robert,
his healing.
He really is. He really is. You know, Mark, I think this might have even predated your time, but Craig had some health issues going on, and he's really come back from him, Robert. He's running half marathons again, and he's a superhuman. He's crazy.
Oh, fantastic.
It's awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
So the show, you guys are doing a great job. We've recently been having a number of discussions in the chat and on the show about Roth conversions and so forth. And I'm 70, 71 and up there, and I'm behind on that. I need to learn about it and so forth, and been trying to decide what to do with my portfolio and several other things. And I started investigating AI. I hadn't used it, so about a month or 2 ago, I started using it and learning how. And I started learning how to use it, and I just want to say that I'm impressed.
It can be very impressive, can't it? It can give you step-by-step guides. Just be careful, because oftentimes when I use AI, it'll say something and I'll challenge it, and it'll go, good catch, Mark, and then it'll go get it corrected. So a corrected version of it. So be careful on that.
Mark and Robert, one thing that I've found that can be helpful, and this could be true for you too, Robert, is if you use one AI search engine, corroborate it with another one, or maybe even one more, just to make sure it just gets a little more. Yeah, that's awesome. Great job.
Yep, that's what I'm doing. I'm even looking at some real estate things here, and I told AI to go out and do an assessment of the property. We have 40 acres in rural Texas, and I asked it to do an analysis, and it came back with a number of pages, and then it provided a summary. I took that to one of the real estate people that I know in the area that's pretty good, and they're like, "Wow, that is spot on."
Well, that's excellent.
So, yeah. So the other thing I just wanted to convey was I was watching a YouTube influencer video guy, whatever you call those guys, and he was trying to get business teaching people how to use AI, and it dawned on me, I'm just going to ask AI to teach me how to use AI.
Bingo. You nailed it. That's the best way to do it.
And it worked perfectly, and it gave me, several pages of things about how to write prompts and so forth. So everything I'm hearing is if you don't get on board now, this thing is moving at light speed, and you will be completely left behind in a year or two. By 27, they're predicting that general AI is really going to be here. So I just want
I think you're right on. Yeah, I think you're right on that, Robert. But I wouldn't be worried about being left behind because it will be integrated into everything automatically. And some people really don't care if they're left behind, and that's okay too. I know some people who really didn't want to, I was one of the people who really didn't want a cell phone for many, many years. I like the idea of being able to get in my car and not be bothered by anybody, not have a phone nearby where people could interrupt me, that kind of thing. So sometimes being behind the curve is a good thing. I once had a gentleman who was a coach for Fortune 500 companies, and he said, more important than being first to the market is being second to the market. And what he meant by that was being first to the market, you have to go through all the trials and all the problems. It's like when Microsoft used to come out with updates to their operating system. You didn't want to take the first version of that. You wanted to wait 3 to 6 months till they got the bugs out of that. So I don't have any problems with people taking it slow and not worrying about it. But AI has a lot of wonderful things it will help for a lot of people. And yes, it will take some jobs. Mostly it'll take more executive jobs like CPAs and attorneys and things like that. Remember, AI isn't a person. It isn't real. It only can work on the information that it learns on and that it can gather from, and it only can represent that to you. So as long as there's freedom on the internet for AI to go and find facts and figures, it'll be worthwhile. As soon as the government starts restricting what AI can learn from, then it'll become so super biased that we won't be able to use it. But I love it, Robert. Thank you so much for your insights. And right now, I'm with you. I think AI is a great thing. You just have to realize it's there to serve you, and you have to question it, because even at the bottom of every AI screen, it says AI can be wrong. So God bless you, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, take care.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Good stuff, Robert. Mark, that's a good point that you made. I think we don't often think about this. Even the way that Google has their search engine now, Gemini is now kind of built into it. So even if you do a regular search, you'll get an AI response. So it's already getting kind of integrated.
Which can be helpful or kind of annoying depending on what you want.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's often annoying. I was talking to Seth this morning about something on the CPI I was working on and looking up figures and using AI, and it kept giving me wrong information and information I wasn't asking for because it was leaning in a direction of to the left and not trying to give the right numbers and giving me different numbers and then trying to translate it for me, which I didn't ask it to do. But anyway, why don't we get to Stephen here?
Yeah, let's do that.
Stephen, welcome to Financial Issues. Glad you're with us this morning. Tell me, what's on your mind?
2 questions. First of all, can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear, Stephen.
Okay. First question is, for about the 3rd time now, I'm a member, and I've been following one of the models, and I've occasionally gotten in the mail a voting form. Do you see yourself in the business of trying to guide people on how to vote on? Sometimes it's for personnel for the board of directors. Sometimes it's on initiatives that they're asking to put shareholder funds to. How deeply do you really want to get integrated with that, being a Financial Issues member?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you where I sit on this. I evaluate companies pretty deep. What I don't do is evaluate their board. I could spend all my time on just a dozen stocks if I had to do that. So instead, I look at the performance of that company. I look at the direction of that company. I look at all the fundamentals and the technicals of that company, and I look at the biblical aspect of that company. If they meet those things, I like them. As soon as they don't meet them, I get rid of it. It's no longer valid to me. So what the board does, how they do what they do, to me, will be reflected in the performance and the actualization of that company's mission and vision. Does that make sense? So I don't even vote. The bottom line is I don't vote on that. First of all, my 1/1,000,000% voting will not have the impact. I know that sounds wrong to a lot of people, but the reality is, how much time are you going to spend researching 12 men and women on a board to look at their whole lifestyle, to look at everything they do, when they do it, outside of work, inside of work, to try and determine their psyche on leading that company? I can't do that. and I don't think anybody really can. So I'll leave that to the insiders, but I will watch everything else and I'll gauge the direction of that company. Does that help, Stephen?
It does, but could AI come to the rescue for some of that?
I wouldn't trust it any more than I'd trust it to talk about me. Let me tell you a very short story. There's other people named Mark Manella in the world, including my son, including a second or a third cousin. And
you don't have a patent on the name?
Yeah, oftentimes even my middle name is the same as those two. So when something happens in the world by one of these Mark Manellas, it can be attributed to me or any of the others very easily. Oftentimes they don't get the Social Securities. They pin me, and I'm not going to share the depth of it. But at one time I had undercover agents surround my car with shotguns for something somebody else did, and they had the wrong Mark Manella. So AI is worse than that, unfortunately. Hey, John, we're going to be with you shortly here. Thanks, Stephen. We're going to a break. Did you have another question, by the way?
Mark, I believe he did. I actually just put Stephen on hold. So, Stephen, why don't you...
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't you just hang on?
Hang on,
we'll get right back with you. Yep.
Absolutely. 610-363-1110.
Here at Financial Issues, we believe in being faithful stewards of everything God has entrusted to us, and nothing is more important than investing in the next generation. Crossroads Kids Club is an after-school program that brings the gospel directly to elementary school children in public schools across the country. These aren't just programs, they're life-changing encounters that point children to Jesus and surround them with encouragement, mentorship, and biblical truth. If you feel called to be part of sharing the gospel with kids in public schools, visit reachourschools.com.
As a member of Samaritan Ministries, your mom.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone, and ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Mark, really enjoying the conversation here. Hope you all are as well, folks.
Absolutely.
I hope that you're considering becoming a partner today. It's a great time to become one right now. Financialissues.org, click that Become a Partnership button. Or Become a Partner, excuse me. Mark, we still got Stephen on the line from Iowa, so why don't we get back to him, shall we?
Hey, Stephen. So you said you had another question?
Yeah, this is regarding the Trump accounts. One of the things I thought about when these first came out was, that's great. Now it's another way to encourage people to save for the future. But I'm wondering what will happen when people can start withdrawing from these things in mass 20 some years down the road. Are we suddenly flooding the economy with more? Maybe it's probably still going to be dollars then, but whatever the currency unit is, and that's going to be an inflation driver.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I believe there will be inflation due to this, and not the inflation you're thinking of, but in the stock market. Because effectively, if every year we have 3 million, I don't know how many babies are born a year, but let's just say that 3 million, $1,000 into 3 million babies, and then 5,000 a year for half those or a quarter of those, whatever. That's a lot of money going in the market. So we're going to see an inflation in the price of just generally the number of stocks that are there and more money chasing it. Just like we did when we saw retirement plans switch from pensions to 401ks, and then everybody got into the stock market. So we started seeing the stock market being pushed up, and more billions of dollars going into the stock market than ever before. In the early 70s, late 60s, less than 30%, I think it was 20-some% of the U.S. households were in the stock market. Today, over 80% are. So that shows you part of why the stock market has inflated. And by the way, we have less stocks on the New York Stock Exchange than we did 10 years ago. So IPOs slowed down off and on, things like that. Inflation affects the stock market as well, and that could be a good thing for everybody. But money pouring out of it, that money's already registered. It's just been deployed somewhere. We're not going to see inflation because of those monies coming out of the stock market. We're going to see the inflation in the stock market, in the stocks themselves due to it. I hope that helps, Stephen.
Thanks for the call, Stephen. Appreciate you, brother.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All righty, yeah.
Mark, why don't we get to John? John's calling from Texas.
Well, before we do, you had a question, you said.
I did, Mark. Yeah. So it was something that you said in the last segment to Stephen, and I'm saying this, Mark, coming at it from the perspective of I agree with everything you said, but I'm thinking about it from the, I guess you call it, I don't like devil's advocate.
Okay, you're dancing too much, so you're coming after me. Come on.
Here's what it is. You said, why should I vote in a shareholder vote? If my vote is only 1/1,000,000th of something, it's not going to matter much. But then I should definitely vote in the political elections, but my vote might matter even less because there's potentially 300 million people who are going to be voting. I know, Mark, a lot of people, when they say, here's why I don't vote, one of the reasons is I don't think my vote matters. And when I say vote, now I'm talking about political votes.
Now, there's a big difference there. First of all, with voting for the people that are going to the board of directors of maybe the 30 to 200 stocks that you may own within the mutual funds and everything else, you have an option. If you don't vote, but you are voting by buying or selling the stock, you have the right to move on. Those people can't overlord you. Once you own the stock, you can say, you know what? I'm watching the metrics and all this, and you're doing a terrible job. I'm moving on. You can't do that with your elected officials. Once you vote them in, they're there until they get voted out.
Yeah.
So that's much more impactful in your life. And so you have to do everything you can to make sure the right people get elected there. You're doing the same thing by selling a stock that the management is leading it down the tubes. By selling that stock, you are actually voting against that stock, against that company, against that board.
It's well said, Mark. We can't move on from our country, but you can move on from a stock pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't move on from country,
with a click of a mouse. Absolutely, yeah.
Well said. Thank you for that, brother. Appreciate that.
Why don't we go to John here? John in Texas. Welcome, John. Glad you're aboard.
Hey, thank you so much for your ministry. It has benefited my family greatly. I got my two boys' accounts, and they're showing them how to use FISM.
Love it.
That's so cool, John. Thanks, brother. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Simple question. I'm rebalancing. I'm looking at international fund, and there's the 3 share classes of Timothy, and then there's ETF. Can I hold positions in like the iShares mutual fund and the ETF, or is it one or the other?
Absolutely. Two different funds. They're not managed the same way. The ETF is more like an index than it is a managed mutual fund. The mutual fund has managers in it, and they're making decisions daily, weekly, monthly. The mutual fund is the Timothy Plan Mutual Fund, where the ETF is managed like an index. They choose a bunch of stocks based on certain criteria, and they hold those stocks for 6 months. And then if any of them have have failed any BRI screening during that 6 months, they get rid of them. If any of them fell apart with their fundamentals or their technicals and they don't believe they're a good fit for this index, they'll get rid of those and replace them with something else. So 2 different things. There may be some overlaps there, but there's still 2 different types of investments.
Okay, so I could just split up, my money between the 2. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good, guys. Thank you very much.
And don't forget about the Israeli Common Value Fund. That's an international fund in the sense that it's focused on one little area, but it's an important area.
It's a good fund.
Right.
Mark.
Well,
I love the Israel fund.
Well, that's just a different sector that I'm investing in that one as well. Just not under my international sector. I'm in the growth model, so.
Okay. And good job on teaching your children. I think that's awesome. If they learn now what it means to invest with biblical integrity, when they make decisions growing up, it just doesn't affect their investing. They start looking, what happens when people get what it means to invest with biblical integrity, invest in a way that doesn't compromise Christian value, biblical morals, what happens is it wires the brain in such a way that you start asking that question on everything. Should I shop here? Should I work here? Should I participate in this or that? And it affects the brain in such a positive way. It's incredible. In fact, that's one of the things that I love about BRI. One of the things we learn throughout growing older and stuff is who you hang with determines your outcomes, a lot of your outcomes. The Bible even says this, and I can't remember the exact verse, so I'll paraphrase it. It says, if you want to be wise, hang around with wise people. Otherwise, if you hang with fools, you'll become a fool.
Mark, I think it's Proverbs 15:1. He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm.
There you go. So what that tells us is our environment programs our brains. We know that. We know that from the media, and those people who sit and listen to the mainstream media continuously start arguing from that perspective of what that media is feeding them. And if they only hang around with liberals, they start being that way. Same with everything else. So when you start exposing a child to these things, when their brain is still forming, it starts wiring them in a way that is going to put them so far ahead of all their peers in their ability to think through things from a godly perspective. You are doing a wonderful and great job parenting those children. Thank you, and God bless you for that, John.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, John. Yeah, Mark, it gets me excited. I love to get to hear parents doing that. And that's such a huge part of what we talk about here, brother, when we're talking about passing along what we know. It starts with your children and your grandchildren. I would hope, and this, I don't want to offend anyone here, Mark, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're a partner with financial issues and you're an older, seasoned partner, I really hope you've told your children and grandchildren about financial issues. Like, that's where it starts. Before you tell your church, your kids need to know. Your grandkids need to know.
And start helping them understand why somebody would invest with biblical integrity, why they would have the stocks and the companies screened for biblical principles, knowing that those companies affect our society, which affect our children. I mean, there's a story in my book about a man who just loves the Lord and wants to do everything right, but he invests in companies that promote and encourage sexual immorality, and his son gets AIDS and dies from it. And I mean, it just, that's the way things work in the world. Those things that we endorse with our money end up, if they're not in alignment with God's value, they're in alignment with the enemy's. And because of that, they bring more darkness to the world. But when we invest with biblical integrity, we rescue that money out from under secularism and get it back under godly stewardship, and all sorts of righteous and wonderful things start happening there. And you, as a partner, you who are listening right now, you are the ones who are doing this, who are curbing the constant cascading of our values of society down, that are curbing the ruining of our country and getting it back to its foundations of being under biblical integrity. And that's a wonderful thing. We're so grateful for you for doing those kind of things. And it's not an easy thing to do. I get it. Some people would say that's stupid. Some people will berate you. But we've always been berated, we've always been condescended to, and yet we've always been right. How does that feel? To know you're on the right side of history all the time when you walk in the ways of the Lord, as you're doing right now, by loving God enough to invest with biblical integrity. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for investing with biblical integrity. Thank you for loving the Lord, and thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. God bless everyone. And
if we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.